Since we have discussed that this is the inversion curve, and inside the inversion curve this is the cooling region, and outside the inversion curve is the heating region. Okay, and in PT diagram, suppose shit. So on PT diagram, what we just draw, we draw the inversion curve something like that. This is the inversion curve and this is the maximum inversion temperature, and the curve is something like this, where these are the isenthalpic lines and here the maximum value of the temperature. And we have already proved that this is your temperature and this is our pressure, and since the pressure is reducing, so it is your cooling region and this is your heating region, that we have discussed. And the mu j, that is the coefficient of Joule-Thomson coefficient, that mu j is nothing but it is del T over del P at a constant enthalpy, and these lines are enthalpy lines, these are isenthalpic lines, and del T over del P is nothing but it is the slope of this curve, and del T over del P is has two values, as means it is positive. When it is positive, then this is positive, so it is your cooling region. I am writing cooling region as CR. When it is negative, so in this region it is your heating region, that is HR. And when this value is equal to 0, means at the maximum point, so this curve is basically obtained, and this curve is known as inversion curve. Obviously this is your inversion curve, and inversion curve IC will be obtained when del T over del P value is equal to 0. And this is your maximum inversion temperature, and as you see that when the temperature of any substance is more than the maximum inversion temperature, this temperature is T max, that is the maximum inversion temperature. If the temperature of any substance is more than the maximum inversion temperature, then no cooling will take place. So whenever we have to get the cooling effect, then we have to select a material in such a way that its maximum inversion temperature should be very very high, so that we can achieve the cooling effect. Okay, and when the maximum cooling effect will be obtained, the maximum cooling effect will be obtained when the when the substance is at the maximum inversion temperature, at its max, where del T over del P value is 0, or on the inversion curve. Why? Suppose if a substance is here and we have to get the cooling effect till to this temperature, then what will happen? We will receive this much amount of the cooling effect, which is very much. And suppose if our starting point is here, then the cooling effect will be less as compared to the earlier one. If it is here, then it is again much less as compared to the first one, where the initial state was at the inversion curve. But if we consider, if we compare it with the heating region, suppose our initial state was here, then what will happen? If we draw a horizontal line, so till this region there is no cooling effect will be obtained, and after that this much of cooling effect will be obtained. But but when the initial state is over here, means that is the heating region, then for getting the cooling effect till this temperature, we have to reduce the pressure in this way. So this much amount of the pressure has been reduced, which is a much greater pressure will be there. Reduction of the pressure is required, and for this much of pressure reduction, that irreversibilities will be very high, so it is not very much effective. So we cannot allow or appreciate that the cooling effect will be obtained when the substance is in a heating region. Cooling effect will be obtained when the substance is in the cooling region, or the best one is that it is at the inversion curve. So the maximum cooling effect will be obtained when the substance is at the inversion curve. Okay, now what is and beyond the maximum cooling, if beyond this maximum temperature, there since there is no heating cooling region is there, so the cooling effect will not be obtained. As in case of hydrogen, what for hydrogen, if you consider the hydrogen, then its maximum temperature, maximum inversion temperature is around 204 Kelvin. So if we have to use the hydrogen for the cooling effect, then we have to first reduce the temperature to its maximum inversion temperature, means 204 degree Kelvin, which is itself a very typical task, and after that we will get the cooling effect. So for reaching the 204 degree Kelvin, we have to apply some another means by which we can reduce its temperature to this temperature. While in case of nitrogen, it is around 680 Kelvin approximately, and for air it is around 750 Kelvin. These are the approximated values is okay. So we use the since we our main concern is to get the cooling effect, so our so cooling effect will be obtained whose and we use that substance whose maximum inversion temperature is as much as possible. Okay, and always remember that the Joule-Thomson coefficient value is nothing but it is the slope of the isenthalpic line, that is del T over del P at constant enthalpies. Okay, so this is all about your cooling effect and explanation of the Joule-Thomson coefficient. Now I am just going to derive the formula for value of the mu J for an ideal gas. So value of mu J for an ideal gas. This is again an important one. What is the value of mu J or Joule-Thomson coefficient's value for any ideal gas? Sorry. So as we know that the value of dH is nothing but this dH is equal to TdS plus VdP through Maxwell's equations, and this is the property relation between the enthalpy and entropy. Okay, and we know that the second TdS equation is what is the second TdS equation? So as per the second TdS equation, TdS is nothing but it is Cp dt minus T times del V over del T at constant pressure dP. This is our second TdS equation. Now put the value of TdS in the earlier equation, then dH becomes Cp dt minus T times del V over del T at constant pressure minus V times of dP. Okay, for an ideal gas, and this equation, obviously this equation is nothing but it is known as the enthalpy equation. This equation is known as your enthalpy equation. Okay, now for an ideal gas, now see over here that for an ideal gas, since PV is equal to RT, where P is the pressure, V is the specific volume, R is the gas constant and T is the absolute temperature. So an ideal gas PV equal to RT equation will be valid. So if we have to find out the value of del V over del T keeping the pressure as constant, so del V over del T keeping pressure as constant means differentiation of V with respect to temperature, then this becomes R by P, and if you calculate the value of R by P through this equation itself, then this becomes V by T. Okay, now putting this value of del V over del T at constant pressure in the above equation, then what is the value of dH? Then this dH is equal to Cp dt minus T times del V over del T at constant pressure value will be nothing but it is V by T minus V dP. So dH becomes Cp dt for any ideal gas, means the enthalpy is nothing but it is that it is the function of temperature itself for any ideal gas. Earlier we have already discussed, while we were discussing the Maxwell's equation, that internal energy for an ideal gas is nothing but it is the equation is a function of temperature. Similarly, the enthalpy is also the function of a temperature for any ideal gas equation. At an absolute temperature, or this equation can be written as that change in enthalpy is nothing but it is Cp delta T. At an absolute temperature means when the temperature is equal to 0, H will have to be 0. Okay. Now the value of mu, now for mu j. So since we have calculated that dH is nothing but it is Cp dt minus T times of del V over del T at constant pressure minus V times of dP. For any isenthalpic line, dH is equal to 0 for an isenthalpic line, because in the music for Joule-Thomson coefficient, the lines are isenthalpic lines. When the dH is equal to 0, then Cp dt is nothing but this is equal to T times del V over del T at constant pressure minus V times of dP, or we can say that del T over del P at constant enthalpy, this value becomes 1 by Cp into T times of del V over del T at a constant pressure minus V. So this is the value of mu j for any gas. This is the value of mu j, or the Joule-Thomson coefficient. But we have calculated that this value is equal to 0 for any ideal gas. So for an ideal gas, mu j becomes 0, because we have already calculated this value, and for any ideal gas this value is equal to 0. So the value of mu j for any ideal gas, this value is always equal to 0. So this is very important result, that the value of mu j is equal to 0 for any ideal gas. This question has been asked so many times, so always remember. So this is all about the Joule-Thomson coefficient. If where the mu j is equal to positive, when mu j is positive, it means that there is a cooling region. When mu j is negative, then it is a heating region, and no cooling effect will be obtained when the temperature of any substance will be more than as its maximum inversion temperature, and maximum cooling effect will be obtained when the substance will be kept at inversion temperature. And where is the inversion curve, sorry, and where is the, what is the inversion curve? Inversion curve is nothing but it is the value where mu j is equal to, it is the locus of all the curve where value of the mu j is equal to 0. Okay. Now so this is the one aspect of Maxwell equation. Now the other thing of Maxwell equation, other application part of the Maxwell equation is your Clausius-Clapeyron equation. So now we are going to just discuss the Clausius-Clapeyron equation. Clausius-Clapeyron equation. Okay. So now we are going to discuss the Clausius-Clapeyron equation. It is another application part of the Maxwell's equation, and this equation is also very much important, and this equation is related to the phase transfer. When the substance phase has been transferred, then how the saturation pressure and saturation temperatures are related to each other, because when the phase transfer takes place, then P saturation or saturation pressure is nothing but it is the function of only the saturation temperature. Okay, saturation pressure is nothing but it is the function of saturation temperature, and we have to find out that how the saturation pressure is related to saturation temperature when the phase transfer has been taking place. Okay, now through the Maxwell equation, if you see the Maxwell's relations, then what is the Maxwell's relation? We know that del P over del T at constant volume is equal to del S over del V at a constant temperature. So we will start with this one. The Maxwell equation is del P over del T. From Maxwell equation, del P over del T at constant volume, del P over del T at constant volume is equal to del S over del V at constant temperature, is del S over del V at constant temperature. So this is your Maxwell equation, and now we are considering that the phase transfer has been taking place. When the phase transfer has been taking place, then this is nothing but it is your saturation pressure and saturation temperatures, and I am writing this saturation pressure and saturation temperature as del Ps and del Ts at a constant volume, and this value is nothing but it is del S over del V at constant temperature. Okay, because at a constant temperature, why? Because it is at a constant temperature, because during the phase transfer the value, the temperature will remains constant. Okay, now we know that dH is equal to TdS plus VdP. This is the property relation, and during the phase transfer then the value of the pressure will remains constant, so dP will have to be equal to 0. So dH is nothing but this is equal to TdS, or we can say that when the during the phase transfer that temperature will remains constant, and this temperature is nothing but it is saturation temperature, then this ds is nothing but it is 1 by Ts, that is saturation temperature, into dH. Okay, so ds is nothing but it is 1 by Ts of dH. Then we can use this relation over here, then we can write that del Ps over del Ts, saturation pressure over del Ts at constant temperature at constant volume, is equal to 1 by Ts, that is saturation temperature, into del S, that is del H over del V. Sorry, that is del S over del V. So this is del H over del V, constant temperature. Okay, or we can write that del Ps is nothing but it is 1 by Ts into del Ts over del V at a constant temperature into del H. We can write this equation in this way also. Okay, now suppose for vaporization and and this Clausius-Clapeyron equation is very much related for the vaporization of the curve, for vaporization. Okay, so during the vaporization, what we'll see, suppose we are at state number 1, and from state 1 to we are moving to state number 2. What is the state 1 and state 2? State 1 is the position where the vaporization is about to start, and state 2 is the point where the vaporization has been totally finished. Okay, so what is dPs is nothing but, suppose this delta H is nothing but it is the change in enthalpy during this process, and this may be written as H12, that is H2 minus H1, that is H12 divided by T saturation, because from 1 to 2 the temperature will remain constant, so this T saturation, and we have assumed that H2 minus H1 is equal to delta H into Ts, that is dTs over dV. And what is dV? dV is nothing but it is the change in specific volume, that is V2 minus V1. Okay, and since this vaporization is there, then at point 1 and point 2, this is H2 minus H1, this can be written, or we can write this equation as del P over del T at a constant volume, del Ps over del Ts is nothing but it is 1 upon Ts into H2 minus H1 divided by V2 minus V1. This is the general equation, as we have seen here in Clausius-Clapeyron equation, that is Hg minus Hf. Hg and Hf is nothing but it is your second and first stage where the evaporation has been completed, and here the evaporation has been just started, and VGF minus V1. And if you see, so this equation and this equation both are similar one. So this is your Clausius-Clapeyron equation. But now how to correlate this with the pressure and temperature? So dPs means saturation pressure divided by dTs at constant volume. So this may be 1 upon Ts, and H2 minus H1, that is the second state minus first enthalpy. Change in enthalpy of the second state minus first state is nothing but it is the total enthalpy, and let us assume it is H12, that is the latent heat of vaporization. This can also be written as, if during the phase transfer in the vaporization, so this is assumed to be a latent heat of vaporization. And V2 minus V1 is nothing but it is the Vg minus Vf. What is Vg? Vg is nothing but it is the gaseous state specific heat, and this is the liquid state specific heat, and we know that value of Vg is much more than that Vf. So we can reduce this, we can deduct Vf and neglect the Vf in comparison to Vg, though in this equation will becomes 1 upon Ts into H12 divided by Vg. At a very low temperature, suppose for very low temperature, very low pressure, at very low pressure we use the relation PV is equal to RT. So V can be written as RT by P. So the equation, above equation, dPs over dTs at a constant volume can be written as 1 by Ts into H12, and this Vg can be written as RTS for saturation temperature and saturation pressure, this value. So dPs over PS, this nothing but it is H12 by R dTs by Ts square. So if we integrate this between the two saturation temperature limit, and suppose there the pressure limits are PS1 and PS2, and they are very close to each other, means state 1 and state 2. Here this state 1 and state 2 are different from that earlier state 1 and state 2. This is basically the state 1 and state 2 are very, suppose this is your PV diagram. If this is something like your PV diagram, then they here and here, these are the two states we have considering, that first state is over here and second state is over here. Okay, so and their saturation temperatures respectively Ts1 and Ts2, and keeping in this mind that since these two states are much closer to each other, such that the value of latent heat of vaporization remains constant, so this equation can be written as ln PS2 by PS1 is equal to H12 by R 1 by Ts1 minus 1 upon Ts2. So this is nothing but, this equation is known as the Clausius-Clapeyron equation, where the saturation pressures are related to the saturation temperatures. How saturation pressures are related to saturation temperature, and if we draw the equation, if we write this equation, then this can be written as ln PS2 minus ln PS1 is equal to H12 by R of 1 upon T1 minus H12 by R into 1 upon Ts, or we can write this equation as ln PS plus H12 by R into 1 by Ts is equal to constant. Okay, so if compare this equation with y barabar mx plus c, so if this is ln ps and here it is 1 upon ts, then y barabar m is minus 1 by h, so the slope of this line will give you nothing but it is, the slope of this line is H12 by R with a minus sign. Okay, so the value of the slope of this line will give you the H12 by R. So we can easily find out what is the latent heat of vaporization by just calculating the slope of this line and multiplying by R. So you will get the latent heat of vaporization between any 2 points. Suppose the point is one is here and other one is there, then if you calculate the slope of this line, then you can easily find out the value of H12. Okay, and this we have compared with the equation of a straight line, that is y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, so this we have discussed about the Clausius-Clapeyron equation, which is nothing but the relation between the saturation pressure and saturation temperature. Okay, so this is all about the Maxwell equation and their application parts. In the next video lecture, we will discuss the properties of the pure substances. Okay, thank you.